back to Amanda's Bookish Adventures. In this one, we will be talking about Goodreads, my Goodreads goal for 2022. So I did get into a reading slump, and I've said this, I think, in a couple other videos at the end of December. So definitely a bit worried, but I think the reason why I was in a reading slump was because I did Bookmas, and I had too many vlogs in between videos. So if I do book next year, I think if I do a vlog, I think I'm just going to do a weekly vlog. I did like 3-day vlogs, 1-day vlogs. So yeah, that kind of put me in a slump, and it took a lot of my creativity. So even though I was in a slump, I'm going to tell you my stats. So for 2020, I read 230 books, and pages read was 57,929. For 2021, I read 242 books, and my pages read was 65,836. And if I was not in that reading slump, I probably could have got to 250. So my reading goal for this year is 200 books. Normally it's just 100 books, but for 2 years I've been able to get 200. Most of it is short books, Harlequin romances that I've read, or graphic novels or manga. I'm still planning on reading big books, but I want to kind of diversify. I do want to get more into graphic novels because there's been so many that I really loved last year. So I'm definitely planning on getting into more. I think another thing is I'm trying not to DNF. If you've watched any, I think it was Bookish Goals for 2022, said I'm not going to try and DNF for the first 3 months. And the reason why is I DNF so much sometimes when I don't like a book that most of my books are a 4 or 5. Only some of them I've made 2 or 3 is if they had some interesting. So I'm going for the first 3 months not to DNF books, but if it puts me into a slump, then I am allowed to DNF. I definitely want to do more rereads this year. So I'm rereading some of my favorites just to get back, because I don't like books sitting there because they could go to a new home if they sit there. That's how I feel. I have anxiety if they don't get read. I still will reread them, but there's some just like, oh yeah, it was a 4 or 5 star, but I don't want to read that story again. It's not a story that I would feel compelled to read. So I'm definitely rereading some books this year and to see if I want to keep them. So I do have a couple rereads going in January. And my light, I wish I bought a ring light, but they're expensive, so I'm using my book light. Sorry, rant. I want to get more creative with vlogs and books, like do video projects, and I think that'd make it more fun too because it would diversify. Readathons definitely diversify reading, especially if there's a prompt, like you read this prompt. And last year, the end of last year, I read Truly Devious and The Inheritance Games, and I've said, especially in those vlogs in Bookmas, that mystery and thrillers really weren't my thing. But I enjoyed those two, so I'm going to plan on reading more this year. But I'm going to stick into the YA. I'm not going to go into adult mystery or adult thriller. I think the books, some of them said they were thriller, but they were mysteries, so I am going to try a YA thriller. But I'm not going to push myself. I am going to at least attempt to read a couple horror books. And I mean little books, because horror I'm terrified of. So no, plus I don't want to read thrillers. Kind of scare me because of stalkers and stuff and murder. I like the mystery aspect because there is a mystery even with murder, but thrillers kind of scare me, so because of the stalker stuff, so I will attempt to at least read one thriller. But the one I want to read is by Riley Sager, whatever his name is, and it's the one about the camp. Because I did watch the Fear Street movies, and my favorite one was the camp one. So I am planning on reading that this year. I do have priority reads that I definitely want to get to. I definitely want to get to some 2022 releases. I'm so bad with new releases. because I try to read what I own, but I get new releases from the library unless it's a book I previously have bought from the author. But I'm really trying to read what I own this year, buy a couple books, but I do want to read some 22 releases. But my biggest priority this year, instead of just releases, and I've said this in a couple videos and Bookmas, I need to read sequels, because I keep starting series and I absolutely love the series I have started, but I need to read sequels to continue on. And even if it makes me not read a bunch of 22 new releases, I'm okay with that, with reading sequels. I will be happy. That is my biggest goal this year, is to read sequels. Another one is to read more Brandon Sanderson and Sarah J. Maas. And I said this in one of the videos, but I'm going to recap. I'm in the middle of 2 of Sarah J. Maas series. I am in the middle of the reread of the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I'm reading the 2nd book this month. I started my reread last year, January. I finished a Court of Thorns and Roses, so obviously I wanted to start January with the sequel. But I'm also, when I took a break last year, I read Throne of Glass. So I read The Assassin's Apprentice, Throne of Glass, the 2nd one, the 3rd one. I am up to, I think the 3rd one's Air of Fire. I'm up to Queen of Shadows. So I am planning on to read that. But I am going to be finishing the not the Throne of Glass, A Court of Roses, to read the new release that I bought from that series. And then I'm going to finish, because I do have all the books, I'm going to finish the Throne of Glass series, and then I'm going to start Crescent City, or I think it's Crescent City series. I own the 1st one. I'm planning on buying the 2nd one, and I'll probably read them later in the year. I want to finish series I'm already in the middle of, and then every couple of months, because you'll see this, Brandon Sanderson. I have a video for Brandon Sanderson. I plan on reading Brandon Sanderson this year. I'm rereading Skyward this month. I want to continue with his sci-fi series, but I do want to read his adult work as well. So there is a separate video about the Cosmere that's coming out in, I'm going to say the 7th, so you'll see that video on the 7th. But definitely that. So there is a new video project that you will see also for this channel, which I'm excited to at least try to get to read some of those releases I've talked about. I also really am going to do a retelling project. So I mostly have read all the retellings I own. I have one more, but I'm going to be checking a bunch out from the library. So I'm really excited. So at least each month I'm going to choose a theme and read 2 to 3 books of that theme of a retelling, and then have a separate vlog. So I'm definitely excited to get into retellings this year. But another thing is, I really do want to read more adult fantasy. So that is why I'm really excited to be reading Brandon Sanderson. I do have other plans on what series for adult fantasy that is written down somewhere that I plan on reading this year. I'm just gonna go by slow. I'm not gonna push it. But this video kind of took off. But I definitely do want to read 200 books, and I think I could do it. I think it's realistic. For 2 years in a row, I got to 200, 230, and 250. One year, I would like to see if I could get to 300, but I wouldn't set it as a Goodreads goal. I'm just going to set it to at least 100 to 2. And by June, if I'm not at 100 books, I think I will lower my Goodreads goal to 100, because I believe June is the 6th month. Yes, it is. So if I'm not by 100, or if I'm close to 100, then I won't lower it. I just don't want to put too much on myself, especially if I do get into another big reading slump. I will lower my Goodreads goal. But I'm planning on not doing that, or at least attempting not to do that, by reading smaller books and rereading some of my faves. Alright, that is it for this video. Tell me what your Goodreads goal is down at the bottom. I would love to hear. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!